Want to look leaner and be stronger? Then check out the Nuva Bar. It actually helps you work out. The Nuva Bar is the compact, lightweight way to regain freedom and balance. It targets your lower body, upper body, abs, and core without getting down on the floor. Best of all, the Nuva Bar is now on sale for just $99.99 plus free shipping and comes with interchangeable resistance bands with 7 full workouts. So if you want a trimmer waistline to look like you're 40 in your 60s, get the Nuva Bar and forget about crunches on the floor. Go to NuvaBar.com. That's NuvaBar.com.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
With New Year's resolutions, many of us will make a vow to eat healthier, and that's a good thing. But what about our beloved pets and their nutrition? Greetings, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here, and I'm on a mission to provide better nutrition for cats and dogs because, truthfully, all pet food is dead food, which is why we created Rough Greens and Meow Greens in the first place. We bring their food back to life with live vitamins, minerals, probiotics, enzymes, omega oils, antioxidants, and so much more. All in a tasty formula that your dog and cat will love. You can improve your pet's coat, digestion, energy, and have less vet bills. Let 2025 bring a new year and a new pet. Get a Jumpstart trial bag, normally $20. Get a 100% discount with promo code BESTFRIEND. You discover the shipping. Go to roughgreens.com, use promo code BESTFRIEND. Bring your pet's food back to life with Rough Greens. So good, your pet will ask for it by name.
Stroke the post. Let's go.
This is your January 17, where the calendar of calamity grabs you by the testicles, even if you don't have testicles. Leader Fan Radio Network.
It's real. It's raw. At times, it's real raw.
Hell yes, it is. And KFAN.com. Welcome back to the Friday Football Least, we're calling it today. The Friday Football Least. As most of you know by now, your Minnesota Vikings will not be participating in the divisional round of the National Football League playoffs. I am Dan Barreiro. That is my name. Former Ink Stain Wretch newspaper, the Twin Cities Guards. He produces the show. And we will be with you between now and I think 6:30. We're going the distance today, right?
Incorrect. We are out at 6:15 for Wolves-Knicks in New York.
Well, so is Cat playing? He's out, right?
He's questionable.
Our guy, but Dante's definitely out with the toe.
He's out, sprained toe.
He's got toe. Cat's got
wrist.
Thumb. Is it wrist or thumb?
It's
I thought it was thumb.
Yep, it's thumb.
But he could play. I bet he's going to play.
He's going to go out.
He wants to play.
Why wouldn't he?
Well, he enjoyed the hell out of it so much last time.
It was pretty seamless for him.
You are correct. So we are out a little bit early at 6:15 this very afternoon. Guest lineup today, outstanding. Absolutely very distinguished. Picks with Gerby moved today to 4:02 from its usual 3:30 slot. 4:02. Postseason picks with Carl Gerbschmidt. Ben Gessling will join at 4:30, and Lavelle is scheduled for 5:30 as well. We've moved the pick segment because Cory Provus is available to us, and he will join at 3:30. And it works out well for not only those who want to get his insight into Ode to a Dead Guy from yesterday, but also Golden Gopher men's basketball team won a Big Ten game against a top 25 team.
Top 20.
Top 20, excuse me. First, I think we were 0-7 for our last 17, spanning all the way back, all of the Ben Johnson era, back to the last 2 games involving your guy, Richard Pitino. By the way, how is
next question?
How is his Lobos club doing this year?
They're doing well.
Are they doing well?
Yeah,
again?
They're having a good year. I don't know exactly where they are in the Mountain West, but they've got another nice team.
All right,
they've got another nice team.
Fair enough. So Provus worked that game last night. It was on my TV. It was on 219.
Fox Sports 1.
That's Fox Sports 1. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yep.
And
nationwide.
Miracle finish. It was single overtime, right?
Yes.
I thought it was destined for double or triple or even quadruple. But your guy, Dawson Garcia, out of desperation, because ain't nothing else happening on this play, ends up trailing the play and gets a pretty good look given how far he was from the basket. Straight on. How many feet are we saying that shot
We're
was?
thinking like 35, 37, maybe 40, depending on
he hits
how
from
mythic
three,
you want it.
obviously, and the Gophers knock off, previously undefeated in the Big Ten, the Michigan Wolverines, much to the chagrin of head coach Bill Frieder. What other Michigan? In the last 3 days, I've named like 8 Michigan former coaches.
Yeah.
Who was the one before? Johnny Orr.
Johnny Orr, I was going to say.
Johnny Orr was tremendous.
Yep, went to Iowa State. Steve Fisher.
Steve Fisher. Is he still coaching?
No. He went to San Diego State.
That's right.
Built that whole thing up, handed it off to your guy, Brian Dutcher.
Who is still there?
Who's still there at the moment.
All right. What's that supposed to mean?
Well, I
thought maybe you had some some information, like where he's headed next.
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he gets brought up every single year.
Yes, he does.
By different columnists in town.
I wonder if the Bears are going to interview him.
They would, Dutch.
They probably would, because they've interviewed, I think they're up to 43 candidates.
I'm really mad. I forgot in the inbox yesterday, I got a really good Coach Walls inbox letter. And it was texted to me, so I forgot about it because I had the stack yesterday, and it was such a good one.
Well,
and I forgot to read it. So if they haven't made a hire next week, I might put it in there.
Save it for next week.
Yeah, I might do that.
In any case,
so Provus is at 3:30.
Provus is how that all started. Yeah, that's how it started, because he was on the play-by-play call last night at the barn. I mentioned off the top of the program that we are indeed your Jan 17, where the Calendar of Calamity grabs you by the testicles, even if you don't even have testicles, leader. How does it get? Maybe we did this a year ago on Jan 17. We probably did. As I never remember year to year what we do. But in all seriousness, for pure calamity, how do you get, and we're going to break these down the next 30 minutes in more depth, but more generally, how do you get past it all on the single day, this same day in Minnesota sports history? Darren Nelson drops a potential, if not touchdown pass, a pass that was going to give the Vikings a fresh set of downs on fourth down in the NFC title game, RFK Stadium, 1988, and then we lose the game. That was the year we came out of nowhere, shocked the world by beating the Saints in New Orleans, shocked the world by beating the 49ers in San Francisco, and then we're down 17-10 at this point, very late in the game. It's fourth and I want to say 6 at the 7. And Darren Nelson drops a perfectly good pass from Wade Wilson. That was today, or on this date, 1999. You have it ready? 1999.
Well, I'm trying to find it. It's not on our button bar
seriously?
anymore.
I figured you were looking for it.
I am looking for it. I don't want to play it.
And Anderson hasn't missed in 2 years.
The stories a stadium could tell.
NFC title game. Vikings, double-digit favorites at home against the Atlanta Falcons. We lose it in overtime on a Morton Anderson field goal in OT. 2002, the Pollads shame those who dare suggest that they would volunteer for contraction. That's kind of a sneaky one, but it does speak to a larger cataclysm, right? All of that nonsense that we went through, right? About whatever the Pollad Carl's intent was, the Twins were on, double secret probation. Were they going to actually be contracted or not? I don't know. But is it fair to say that regardless of the reality of that, it was just a bad baseball vibe at that point? Awful across the board.
Very bad.
And on this same date, Jan 17, 2017, let's ride. Tim Brewster.
Wow.
Hired as the head football coach at the University of Minnesota. Seriously, I mean, top to bottom.
That's a tough day.
How do you I challenge any of our amateur sports historians for sheer cataclysm and depth of cataclysm to match, let alone beat, Jan 17 in the history of Minnesota sports. I mean, that's remarkable, isn't it? That it could all be on one day, or the same date, I should say, on the calendar. Jan 17. Now, if you ranked those, I assume one would be Anderson hasn't missed in 2 years.
Not even close.
What would be second? I think Coach Brew probably.
Yeah, I think so.
I would put Nelson third, the drop. And, when we have talked about this in the past, I think what I've acknowledged is, in my mind's eye, and I was there, RFK Stadium, I looked at the play for years after as a pretty tough catch. But when we went back in more recent years, in fact, there's a great NFL historian who drops videos all the time in which the quality has been cleaned up quite a bit, or as much as possible. I did this morning, and I watched the play again. You got to catch that ball. Have you seen it lately?
No.
You got to catch that ball. Now, There is a defender in the area, but Nelson drops it before that guy touches him. It is a damned good pass. And again, that wouldn't have won it for them. It would have tied it. They would have presumably gone into OT. But maybe it ended up in the Super Bowl. Who's to say? We'll never know at this point. But it's a sneaky, underrated one. And I did find, via Dan Minnesota, a quote from Darren Nelson then saying, I probably should have caught it. Yeah, he should have caught it. He definitely should have caught that pass. And the youngsters don't have any recollection of that run. But I do not. It was a good run.
Yeah.
In part because what we talk about with the Vikings this year, it was, it's fun when it's unexpected. Vikings were not very good that year. That was the strike year where Mike Lynn didn't believe the strike was going to happen, so he didn't really prepare for having to get players off the street ready that might at least give you a little bit of a chance. And we were the worst scab team in football. 3 games, we lost them all. Because I think that season, what was our record? Because I think we ended up playing 15 games that year. Is that right? I want to say we were 8-7 total, but with non-scab games, we had a good record, 7-4, 8-4, something like that.
8-7 was the final record.
Okay, so we were 8-4, not including the scab games, and yet they got lucky. Somebody beat somebody the last day. The Vikings lost their last game of the season. Keith Millard lost his mind in the locker room, basically saying we don't deserve to be in the playoffs. We're gutless pigs. Forget it. And then later that day, somebody beat somebody to reopen the door. So it was the classic Sirwanga before Sirwanga ever played here. The Vikings backpedaled into the playoffs. I mocked them. A lot of people ridiculed them. They went to New Orleans heavy underdogs. They're down 10-0 early. Tommy Kramer gets hurt. Wade Wilson comes in. Final score, Vikings 44, Saints 10. 44 unanswered points, and then they beat Montana something like 36-24 the next week. So they were in that position. So even if you weren't alive for it, trust me, it's sneaky cataclysmic because there was an opportunity there, and the play was there. I mean, when's the last other time in an NFC title game we were that close? I guess it would be Favre across the body.
Yeah.
Because with Zim, when we got there, we got killed.
We did.
After scoring first.
Yep, we did. Right? After the miracle.
So that would have to be the Favre one. Most of the time, we're not even, it doesn't come down to 1 or 2 plays in the NFC title game for us, right? Very rarely.
Most of the time, it does not.
I challenge you to find another date on the calendar that's worse, more cataclysmic than Jan.
That's what I woke up to this morning, not Minnesota, but it was Creasel, who was in with the power trip this morning. His tweet, quote tweeting somebody with the Gary Anderson miss field goal, and he said, 26 years ago today.
Yes.
And that's like I've really had to rebound. I've really had to kind of buck up after that.
And
that's
you
how I
still
woke
can't
up.
Find the sound? How's that possible?
Well,
you play it every 15 minutes.
We haven't played it in a long time.
Oh, we
say it all the time.
Oh, okay.
But I can easily get it again. But it was waking up to that whenever I woke up this morning and doing the daily doom scroll and having that just hit me in the face from Crease. You're down a touchdown early as a Vikings fan when that is the way your day starts. At least. So I've had to bounce back.
I'd say probably a couple of touchdowns, right?
Probably.
Pretty close to that. Let's get our first pause in. More on the Calendar of Calamity and what a big day it is there. And then we'll prepare for our first guest, Cory Provus, at 3.
Want to look leaner and be stronger? Then check out the NuvaBar. It actually helps you work out. The NuvaBar is the compact, lightweight way to regain freedom and balance. It targets your lower body, upper body, abs, and core without getting down on the floor. Best of all, the NuvaBar is now on sale for just $99.99 plus free shipping and comes with interchangeable resistance bands with 7 full workouts. So if you want a trimmer waistline to look like you're 40 in your 60s, get the NuvaBar and forget about crunches on the floor. Go to NuvaBar.com. That's NuvaBar.com.
Let me correct my own memory in that 1987 first-round playoff game, Vikings beating the Saints. They weren't down 10-0. They were down 7-0. Then the Vikings scored the next 10. I think they scored the next 24 before the Saints then kicked a field goal. So by halftime, the Vikings scored 10 in the first and 21 in the second quarter. I think AC Anthony Carter had a punt return in that game for a touchdown as well. So they weren't down 10-0. I exaggerated a little bit, but trust me, I was there. It started badly, and then Kramer was replaced by Wade Wilson, and then Wade ended up obviously, continuing to lead that team throughout.
Can I try to put a grand in somebody's hand? Because I don't think I did that.
No, you're like been bored with the grand in your hand.
No,
thing. I know you don't mean it.
And if it's not right in front of me, I can't see it. And it's in this little pouch over here that I never look at.
Take it out of the pouch.
It's out of the pouch now. Right. So hopefully I remember for the 4 o'clock hour. But the fan does, and I do, want to give you a shot to put a grand in your hand with our National Cash Contest. And the keyword for the 3 o'clock hour is money. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword money.
Money. Okay.
I hope that's the right keyword.
See, that doesn't inspire confidence.
Friday, January 17th, 3 o'clock, money. KFAN.com.
Okay. All right, I believe you.
I'm distracted, I guess.
I think we all are, for sure. According to Royce's book, this is from Dan Minnesota, after the 87 Vikings backed into the playoffs, a few reporters met with Bernsey the next morning, and Bob Sansevier, who was the beat reporter for the Star Tribune on the Vikings back then, asked if he thought his team lacked killer instinct. Apparently, Bernsey went on a rant that rivaled the Schnelker rant, and only a few reporters heard it. I don't think I was there for that. I think I probably would have remembered that, but that's very believable. And now that Minnesota mentions it, or notes it, I do remember it from the Royce book as well. Were you when the Brewster hiring day? Because the press conference would have been the next day, right? I think
probably.
I'm guessing
somewhere around there.
So. Weren't we on the air? Were you with me then?
I wasn't. No, I was on 9 to noon.
Okay.
Yes.
But I'm pretty sure it broke during the show, during Bumper to Bumper. Am I wrong? Or do you think it was earlier, maybe? What do you remember? Do you remember it coming up 9 to noon?
I don't remember.
My recollection
when it was broken.
is it at least media reports broke during the show. And I was as gobsmacked and flummoxed as anybody.
Pre-Twitter, by the way.
That's true.
I want to say. 07-ish would have been, I think, just pre-Twitter.
You're right. And I mean, like everybody else, I'm going, tight ends coach here. What are we doing? What exactly? And then the bit came in quickly. Calm down. It's about the access that we're going to get to players.
Recruiting.
That we never had a chance to get to before. That was the bit with him, right? And it's pretty cataclysmic. I mean, I don't
win the Big Ten championship. We're going to take the Gopher Nation to Pasadena.
Let me look up here. Gopher football coaches to check. I want to check records. Where could I find Wikipedia? I should be able to find that in Wikipedia here. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, my recollection again is that for pure cataclysm, the Uecker era was more cataclysmic than the Brewster era, was it not?
Brew into a couple of bowls.
That's it, which people tend to forget. So Brew was here for 4 years, 2007 through 2010.
Right, 3.5 basically, because he got fired in the middle of the last season.
That's correct. Coached 45 games. His record was 15-30.
Wow.
Jim Uecker was here for 5 years, starting in 1992. He replaced your guy Goody, one of the Goodies. There's a lot of Gudikins. One of them is Green Bay, right?
Yes.
They're all related.
Yes.
Every Gudikins, it turns out, is related.
It's not a very common name, so it makes sense.
And because it's Minnesota, he was Goody. He was Goody.
And they're all called Goody. Yeah.
Are they all called Goody?
I think you have to.
Yeah, pretty much. By the way, for the record, Goody was here for 6 years. Holtz was here for 2, 10 and 12. Second year, though, good, and then Notre Dame came calling. We know that story. Goody starts in 86, inherits some of the Holtz fumes, but finishes 29 and 36 and 2 over 67 games. Uecker, in 5 years, was 16 and 39. It was bad. And
I was there for a lot of that.
I was here for a lot of it and covered a lot of it as well. And I can still remember Dateline, West Lafayette, Indiana. I have to go to the team hotel, I think, to pick up a credential before the morning of the game. And I run into McKinley Boston. I don't know if his title was more than AD. It was AD / something else, I think.
Okay.
And I don't know what year this would have been. But he's working on me. He's trying to spin a little bit. And he says, Dan, we're this close. He said, I can taste it. We're this I know it didn't do that. We screwed up there. We're this close. And I nodded my head. I'm not, what's the point? I'm not going to get any kind of debate with him. He's the idea that, what's the point of doing that? And then I'm guessing they got killed by Purdue and I ripped them. I'm pretty sure I probably did rip them.
I'll look it up.
I ripped a lot in the Uecker era. Mason 64 and 57. Brewster, we mentioned 15 and 30. But I think the Brewster era feels worse than it was just because of the manner, right? And because of just getting worn down by all the nonsense and all the platitudes and all the cliches. And he gave us endless material, right?
To this day.
We still use it.
To this day, we still use it and look for more. 1 in 10, I think, his first year. Then they rallied to go to back-to-back bowl games, and then he got fired. They were like 7 and 6, I think, 2 years in a row.
Right, that's right. That sounds right.
And then lost a bowl game, and then he got fired.
Weren't we ranked pretty high? Relatively high, one of his years where it was going good.
They started 7-1 1 year, and then they beat Illinois, who was coming off a Rose Bowl, I believe. That was a big deal. It was a big win.
Right.
And then collapsed down the stretch, if I remember right, and then the next year he was fired.
Yeah, it wasn't good. But again, if I'm ranking them, you still got to put Anderson hasn't missed in 2 years at the top of the list.
Totally.
Because that's the team that was anointed. It was the circumstances. It was how you lost. And again, as Robert Smith has pointed out to us many, many times, you make that field goal, you're up 10 with like 2.5 minutes to go. Game's probably over.
Yes, it's over.
It's probably over. The door was open because it's a one-score game when he misses. Now, the defense wasn't obligated to allow Atlanta to score. We've talked about that before, but it would change so much about the perception. I don't know if we would have been a lot of Vikings, including some Vikings players, have basically tried to console themselves by saying we were so injury-riddled that we would have gotten killed in the Super Bowl.
Doesn't matter.
Therefore, we were better off not getting there.
Which is not true.
It's not helpful.
I disagree.
Don't think it's a real good attitude.
Yeah, they might be right.
Yeah,
because there were a lot of injuries. I think Moss was banged up in that game too.
Right.
Johnny Randall was one that has said he was really banged up.
Yes, that's true. He was. I remember that.
But to answer your ranking questions, you just asked me, do you remember where you were when you heard about Brewster?
Yeah.
I don't. But I think I said this to you recently, or I've said it to a lot of people. To this day, when I drive, if I'm downtown by the convention center and I'm driving down, I think, 11th Street to get back to 394 to come back to work or whatever, I drive by where my Uncle John
you have mentioned this,
parked our car for the championship game, and I think about it every single time.
And that's a decent hike from the Dome, isn't it?
Well, from where we parked, 11th, a couple blocks.
Oh, not that far.
I don't know.
I thought it was a little
But it's on the same side of town.
Right, right. Yeah.
But it's by like a mechanic.
Yes.
And I drive by it and I think about it every single time. And I remember being in the car with him, listening to the fan.
That's the way it works.
The post-game show, hearing the Denny post-game interview or press conference, whatever it is. And I think about it every time.
Yeah.
26 years later, I still think about it.
Yeah, it'll never leave you. There's some moments like that are never going to leave you. There's no question about that.
So it's number one.
Cory Provus is coming up next. Lots to get caught up with on him. First time we've chatted on air with him in quite some time. He is next.
Want to look leaner and be stronger? Then check out the NuvaBar. It actually helps you work out. The NuvaBar is the compact, lightweight way to regain freedom and balance. It targets your lower body, upper body, abs, and core without getting down on the floor. Best of all, the NuvaBar is now on sale for just $99.99 plus free shipping and comes with interchangeable resistance bands with 7 full workouts. So if you want a trimmer waistline to look like you're 40 in your 60s, get the NuvaBar and forget about crunches on the floor. Go to NuvaBar.com. That's NuvaBar.com.
Predictions with Gerby will be coming up at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. So, Carl Gerbschmidt fans, don't panic. We will indeed get to him. We'll also have Ben Gessling with another look back on the Vikings season and their plans for the upcoming 2025 campaign at 4:30, and we'll have Lavelle at 5:30 as well. So that's the combo platter. On a busy program today, bumper to bumper, we are out at 6:15. Guardsy tells me as well for Minnesota Timberwolves basketball against the New York Knicks. That coverage will begin at 6:15. A pretty familiar voice to this market and certainly to this program, given all the great time he gave us during the last baseball season. Cory Provus now kind enough to join us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Welcome back. Appreciate the time as always. And obviously, you're getting bombarded with requests to attempt to properly celebrate the legacy of one Bob Uecker, who you worked with extensively. I want to start with something that I think has been called the Scottsdale test, or the test where whoever's going to work with Uecker has to sit down with him in various circumstances and sort of pass the test. How did that test go for you?
Don and Charlie's Steakhouse in Scottsdale, which I don't know if I think it's now something else, whatever. But this was the go-to place, spring training in Arizona, where it was memorabilia galore. But in the month of March, it was a who's who. I mean, you'd see Willie Mays in there. You would see just anybody from Joe Torre was in there a lot. Players were in there all the time. It was just the place to go. Ron Santo, he had his own table out there. And then Bob Uecker had his own table out there as well. And so, yes, I remember flying out when I was a finalist for the job before the 2009 season. And, yes, I flew out to Arizona, had dinner with Bob. And he had his own booth, really, and above where he was sitting are a bunch of pictures of himself. So you're looking at Bob and looking at his face, but then above him are pictures of Bob from his career, fishing. One picture I recall, he had no shirt on. So it just was kind of like, all right, where am I supposed to look here a little bit? But Dan, it was like a 3-hour dinner. I think we're drinking Miller Lite. I mean, not going to not drink Miller Lite around Bob Uecker. And I think we had 4 beers before we even ordered anything. I'm like, man, I need a taxi. This is long before Uber.
Yes.
So this was this was one of those nights where, and then I remember though, Bud Selig was in the restaurant, but I remember, he picked up his beer. I picked up mine. We cheers and he said, it's going to be fun. And that's when I had not even been offered the job yet,
okay.
But when we cheered, kind of with Miller Lite. I was like, all right, I guess this is going to happen.
When you're in the booth with him, how do you know in that sense that you've passed the test? Were there certain mannerisms? Were there certain things he did or said that allowed you to say, hey, I'm okay with this guy. I think I'm going to be able to keep my job.
It's a great question because I spent most of yesterday when I wasn't getting ready for the Gopher game. I spoke with a lot of former partners of Ukes, this fraternity that I was so lucky to be a part of, including Pat Hughes and Jim Powell and Jeff Levering and Brian, and just a lot of Brian Anderson, Bill Schroeder, just a lot of people. And I reminisce with Pat because Pat had that job for 12 years, from 1984 to 1996. Before Pat moved to the Cubs. And Pat told me, he said, when I started with Uke, he said, you're in the moment that he tries to make you laugh uncontrollably on the air, and you can't go to break. You have to finish the sponsored segment. And that happened. I mean, when that happened, the second half in 2009, both in Cincinnati and then later in Arizona, I vividly remember Pat telling me, when that happens, you're in. And after the fact, I was like, all right, we're good. And then we were off and running.
Tell me the Chiquita banana story. I enjoyed that one.
Oh, yeah. That was one of those. Yeah, that was one of those moments. The Chiquita banana is one of those great moments. There was something happening in Cincinnati. There was this big festival happening on the field pregame. There were music and dancing and vibrant colors and just a lot happening on the field, which is not unusual. I don't recall what the celebration was for, what it was about, but it was entertaining. A lot was happening on the field. And one of the performers then sung the national anthem. And the way that we built the format for the Brewers games, at home we controlled the timing a bit more, so we did not carry the national anthem on the radio. On the road, though, at the mercy of the opposing team, the timing sheet may not be the exact same. So, yes, we'd carry the anthem from time to time, may catch the last few bars, what have you. So sure enough, and the way that our format was set up, if we did that, so Bob would then say, announce the performer's name, the anthem, and then out of that, he'd throw it to me for the starting lineups. So all season long on the road, that was, John Johnson with the national anthem. The lineups, here's Cory. Okay. So this woman is asked to perform the anthem. It was a night game. And the analogy that I use, I'm not sure if you're a Simpsons fan, but imagine Marge Simpson, but take out the towering blue hair, and every imaginable piece of produce is taped together, glued together, what have you. This towering 3-foot banana, orange, every piece of produce, this towering hat, or whatever this performer has on, sings the anthem. So we all see it. It's a lovely anthem, and her name is on the video board. And so Bob, sometimes he'd make up a name. Sometimes he would say, Ben needs a voice. Yep. Sometimes he'd make up a name. But, I just was ready for anything. What I was not ready for, carrying the last few bars of the anthem, a pause, and then that was the Chiquita banana with our national anthem. The lineups, here's Cory. I was not ready for that. And then I'm trying to get through the starting lineup, sponsored by X, Y, and Z, and it wasn't going anywhere. And he said, "You okay? You okay, bro?" He never called me Cory. He did call me Cory, but he wouldn't call me Core. He didn't call me CP.
Right.
Only one in my life to this day that called me Pro. It was always Pro. Okay, Pro. What you need anything? I mean, so things like that. So that was the Chiquita banana story.
It's brilliant.
And that was one of those moments when it clicked. When I can't go anywhere. We got to get through this, and now let's do our best. But those were just one of many. Just the best guy, and God, I miss him. And today's been tougher because I've just not had the game.
Yeah, you were busy last
like I did yesterday.
Right.
That's why today's been tougher.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, and in a sense, you probably were like that. You were working, even though you're grieving. It's like, well, you got something else to focus on and to think about as well. Broadcasters, many of them talk about how they come to appreciate the sound of silence or letting the moment breathe, whatever cliche you want to use for it, because it's vastly underrated. When you first get in in the business, hell, it's no different with writing, where you want to overstate everything, and then you eventually get to a point where you go, maybe I should understand, maybe I bring it back down a little bit. And same with, as I said, broadcasters learning that sometimes less is more. You mentioned that he helped you do that. How did he help you appreciate that exactly?
So my first game with him, spring training 2009, and again, pregame, I'm doing the lineups, and I'm going so fast. And I could see him from the corner of my eye with his hands like telling me, slow down, pump the brakes. All right. So I was just going so micro machine guy. I was going way too fast. And then just over time, when you listen every day and you're locked into it every day, you pick up on how often he would let the game breathe. And it wasn't dead air, and it goes against everything you learned that I learned at Syracuse and from program directors and general managers saying, like, no, you got to fill the air, got to fill it. And his belief was, we're telling a story. We may not be talking, but there are sounds coming through that are helping tell the story. And a recent example I can bring up from Twins Radio, the playoffs in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Target Field, never better in my time than it was during the postseason in 2023. And during that Blue Jays series, some big moments. There was nothing that I could say that was going to be better, even though it's not a visual medium. There was nothing that I could say that was going to be better than what you could hear. And the sounds that were coming from the ballpark, that packed ballpark, fans cheering, taunting pretty much Kevin Gausman, the Gausman chant, that was fantastic. And I learned some of that with Bob, how he would let the game breathe. And he'd also tell me, look, take some chances, take some shots. And over time I would, and I still do.
Sure.
Some are going to land, some won't, but you're trying. And it's not the same monotonous day in, day out, play-by-play. You want to make it interesting, make it fun. And, that guy was the ultimate pitch man. I mean, he did live billboards. When you hear a broadcast, you may hear a big voice say, on KFAN, Vikings football is brought to you by X, Y, and Z. Bob would read the billboard live every day. He'd run off like 20 sponsors every day. Milwaukee Brewers baseball is brought to you every day. He would do that because he felt like the sponsors deserved that.
Yeah.
And he would change it up a little bit. And things like that nobody else would even try, he did and did them so well.
So, there's obviously a million famous sound bites from his career, but tell me what it was like to listen to him in terms of style over the course of a game. Was he a yeller? Was he a muser? A little bit of every what? Because a lot of people in our audience, they're familiar with the name, obviously, and they've chuckled at some of the comments that get brought up, particularly at a time like this. But maybe they haven't heard, or listened to him for an entire broadcast. What stands out to you in that regard?
He never ripped players. That was because he played, and he was fully aware how hard the game is and was. So I never heard him say that I can recall ever saying when a Brewers closer gave up the lead in the ninth inning, I never heard him say blown save.
Oh, wow.
I never heard him say that. He never said blown save. So just things that at the time I probably didn't click. Mm-hmm. But I just, as much, and I'm sure you've heard a bunch of calls, and I have too.
Yes.
It was incredible last night. I don't know if it was fate or what have you, but the finish that we had. But then I get in the car, and I was listening yesterday to a lot of WTMJ in Milwaukee, and then I was listening to MLB Network Radio. And after the game last night, I'm leaving the barn, and I just had MLB Network Radio still on, and they were playing Game 5 of the 2011 National League Division Series, where the Brewers won the game, won the series, advanced the NLCS with a walk-off hit from Nigel Morgan. That was me and Uecker doing that game. And they edited out a lot of my parts, which I don't blame them, but I listened the entire way. And then after Nigel Morgan's walk-off hit in the 10th inning that scored Carlos Gomez to win 3-2, they kept it going, and then there was that part that he said, all right, the celebration's underway, and in the middle of all of it is Cory Provus. So hearing his voice and hearing him throw to me, man, I'm crying right now. It was just, it hit me, and I'm like, man, this is so fitting that I get another chance to reconnect with my guy, and I wouldn't be here without him. And it was an incredible basketball game. But then to cap it off with that last night, that just made my day.
That's terrific. That's a great way to top it off, 100%. Cory Provus, voice of the Twins, our guest on The Fan. Texter has just checked in with this. I used to listen to Cory and Bob all the time. There was nothing better than when Bob got Cory to crack up. It was so fun to listen to them. Mom is a huge Twins fan and is now a huge Cory fan as well. Well, you talked about one of those times, but there must have been a million of those, like you said. Where
there were so many. I mean, Nigel Morgan had an alter ego that when he played, he had this name of Tony Plush. Right, that was his name. He liked to be known as Tony Plush in big moments, not Nigel Morgan. So this is when the Astros were the laughingstock of baseball, right? The Astros were terrible. They were still a National League team. So we go down there, and it was a blowout every time. And so we had a sponsored segment where you could text the booth. And so it was my job to go through those in the seventh inning. And I would pick my spots because Bob was off in innings 3, 4, and 7. And sometimes he'd hang in there with me, but a lot of times he would just kind of, he'd go to the restroom, get something to eat. He would just check out for a little bit. But there were times if I asked him, hey, can you stick around? Because, this was a blowout game, and I thought this would be kind of fun. So we got this text in the seventh inning of this lopsided game in Houston. And the texter said, hey, Cory, we know that Tony Plush is the alter ego of Nigel Morgan. And Bob doesn't see these, by the way, okay? Right. This is all spontaneous. If Bob Uecker had an alter ego, what would his name be? So I'm saying that to him.
Yes.
He's to my right, 3 feet away. He goes, oh, that's easy, Cor. I said, what's that? It'll be Betty Davis. I said, Betty Davis? Yeah, Hollywood fame in the 1930s, 1940s. Yeah, she won a couple of Academy Awards. Broadway star. Yeah, Betty Davis. I said, why Betty Davis? I don't know. Left-handed hitter. Look good. I think she'd be great. Oh, yeah, Betty Davis. Where did he get that from?
Oh, that's tremendous. Well,
where did he get Betty? Yeah. Where did he get Betty Davis from? I mean, just out of nowhere. So just things like that you never knew where it was going to go. And gosh, I told him this. So one of his favorite. Are you okay on time?
Absolutely.
I'm getting too long here.
Go right ahead. We're good.
So one of Uke's go-tos, right? And early in the game, it happened. Not every game, but at the first pitch of the game, it was a fastball down the middle, strike one. Back in the day when hitters would not swing at the first pitch as much as they do now. But I get why they do. But it'd be, here we go, from the windup, and Supon's pitch right down Wisconsin Avenue for strike one. So Wisconsin Avenue, downtown Milwaukee, that was his go-to, right? So I heard that for a long time. So probably around it was probably during COVID when Danny and I were not traveling, and we were just bored and just got to come up with something here, right? So probably around 2020. I started, and Danny's got a farm. Dan Glad has a farm in St. Boniface. Mm-hmm. And I started every now and then dropping, here's the 0-1, and right down St. Bonnie Boulevard for strike two. Mm-hmm. Okay? So I was dropping that in, not every day. I maybe did it 5-10 times a year. Danny's right there. He got a chuckle out of it. So in 2023, my boss, Andrew Halverson, before a game, pulls me aside. He said, hey, Cory, I said, what's up? He was like, we got a letter or a phone call or email from the Chamber of Commerce from St. Bonifacius, and they keep hearing you reference St. Bonnie Boulevard. And they're wondering, are we missing something?
Where is
there
that?
a St. Bonnie? And I heard that.
That's too good.
And I texted you. I said, I got to tell you this story. And he was so proud of me.
That's so good.
That was perfect. That was I just made something up. Yes. And it took off, and it became a thing. And I was like, yes.
There it is.
That's one of those where you was like, that a boy. That's what I said earlier, Dan, taking a chance and trying something. It may be nonsense, but have some fun with it. And that was a great example of that.
Well, and there's no question baseball is the game to do that, right? I mean, the very nature of it certainly allows you have more time. And I think to that extent, it's easier to take more chances, right? Where there's not endless action. Doesn't mean that all broadcasters do it, but to me, that plays perfectly into what you're talking about.
Yeah, and you knew at the beginning, like you throw it to Bob for the play-by-play, first inning, here's the Hall of Famer Bob Uecker. First inning, you don't say much. The role that I had, that Pat, Jim, and after me, Joe Block and Jeff Levering, you don't say much. Let Bob, set up the game, set up the storylines, and then you'd interject more in the second inning. But same in the eighth and ninth inning, especially the ninth inning. It was a tight game. Stay out of the way. You're there. You're there for anything he needs.
Sure.
But don't get in the way. Let the man do what he has done so well and just deliver. And I love the calls, and I got to be there for some great ones because they had some good teams. The 2011 team was awesome. Trevor Hoffman becoming the first to reach 600 saves. Some great teams, some great moments that I was just Man, I won the lottery. Well, what a seat I had. Just so lucky that I had that chance.
Why do you believe he so successfully crossed over, into kind of the popular culture? Because there are other iconic broadcasters in their own right who've been very good, great styles, almost have come to define the teams they've broadcast for. But obviously he had the movies, he had the Johnny Carson appearances. Is it just the quick mind, the agile mind? What allowed him to be the guy who crossed over more than most of the others?
I would think the Tonight Show was the catalyst for it all. He was obviously very funny. He made fun of his playing career all the time. Right. He would do play-by-play in the dugout, when he wasn't playing. But when Bob Uecker had a statue unveiling, this was years ago. This had to be around 2012, maybe 2011, 2012. At a statue unveiling outside then Miller Park. It was a great show. I mean, they had a lot of people in town, including Dick Ebersol from NBC, and Dick Ebersol gave a great speech as the statue was being unveiled, and among the messages he relayed to the hundreds that were there watching is that Johnny Carson, near the end, when he was asked about his favorite guests on the Tonight Show, he mentioned Bob Uecker. He mentioned Don Rickles, Sinatra, but Bob Uecker was right up there, and he was on the Tonight Show all the time.
He was,
and that set him up for everything that I think happened in TV and film and the Miller Lite commercials, because Johnny, that first episode, and I'm sure people have pulled it up the last day and a half. You can YouTube; these are great. There was, I think, Uecker's first ever appearance on the Tonight Show. Johnny had kind of like a card that he had for information, things to talk about, and then after that, he never used one again. And then after his first appearance, Uecker's segment is over. The story goes that Carson turned to Ed McMahon and said, "Did that guy really play baseball?" I don't believe it. Did that guy really play baseball? And it became just a wonderful, wonderful friendship. And I think that was really the catalyst that set Uecker up for all the fame that he deservedly earned. Forget his broadcasting career, but I would say the Johnny Carson Tonight Show made it happen.
What annoyed him?
I got him upset once.
Did you?
You don't forget that one. Oh yeah. I was doing so. It became, because I heard this a lot when I stopped doing radio, and because people used to have fun with me describing the uniforms, and I guess it became a drinking game, and that's fine. So it was fine. But there was one game. It was interleague probably 2009, when the Brewers are playing the Tigers, and I think I started describing the uniforms in the third inning. And he crossed his arms, leaned back in the chair, and I'm like, I'm in trouble. And afterwards, the game is over. I was like, Cor, that's something that I like to do at the beginning. I do it if I missed it that day. That's something that I got to do. I said, okay, no problem. So I never did it again. So I was like, all right. But that happened, and it wasn't too often. If I said, I might have tried to squeeze in just something, try the outside corner and miss something a major league line.
Yes.
And I remember him pulling me aside a couple of times. Be like, that's my stuff. You do your own thing. Come up with your stuff. You're good.
I love it.
You're going to be great. You're going to be at this a long time. He wasn't angry. And
yes.
He was demonstrative, but he just wanted me to do my own thing.
Right.
And he wanted me to develop my own style. That's what it was the entire time. It was just a coach and a friend and a mentor that challenged me to be better and to do it my own way and not just follow and copy everything he was doing.
These stories are terrific, man. I really appreciate it. And I did want to mention before you go that you were on the call last night, the Gophers' first Big Ten victory of the season. Guardsy was watching. I was watching. Great call as always. And, I'm just curious to get your impression, because obviously it's been a slog. They've had close games, but it's the old deal of they just, winless in the Big Ten ain't good. The barn has been pretty, mausoleum-like. Give us a sense of what you saw last night.
I think that's Ben Johnson's best win, by far. I think that's that's the best game I've seen Dawson Garcia play. And I've seen a lot of, I haven't seen every one, but I've seen a lot of them the last 3 years. But I just came away with, this is a guy that he wants the ball in a big spot. Let me carry this team and make a play. And so I felt I was happy for him, but they got production because, seeing Minnesota play as often as I have, there are just too many nights when the big guys are no-shows.
Yeah.
And they cannot win if Dawson Garcia is, fouling out against Ohio State, scoring 6 points, or if Mike Mitchell is, 2 for 18 from the field. But last night was just an effort where they got scoring from 3 guys. And Lakai Patterson was tremendous. Mike Mitchell came up with big shots, and Dawson Garcia I thought going into the game, how are the Gophers going to handle the 7-footers and just compete on the glass? Well, they were dominated in the first half, but then that rebounding margin shifted heavily the second half and overtime, and that played just a huge difference in the game. So it was pretty neat. I was lucky because where I sit, Ben Johnson's dad sits like 4 or 5 rows behind me. And so, I got to know him and meet him a few times. He's just a really nice man. And as Ben was coming over to do his interview with Brian Butch, so Ben's dad is right over my right shoulder. There's chaos going on. And Ben sees his dad. They extend arms, hands, they handshake, and hearing Ben's dad say, "I'm proud of you and I love you." I was like, oh, I just caught that. Now, how lucky am I to just be here, a father-son moment for how hard it must be right now with the state of the program. And that's my son. I love him. I'm going to defend him, and I'm proud of him. And he just got, the biggest win so far of his Gopher coaching career.
It's a great moment, a great anecdote as well. It's good to catch up, man. We always love having you on, as you know, and we look forward to chatting with you down the road as well. Hope the winter has gone good for you so far.
Thanks, buddy. We'll catch up soon. And again, sorry for yesterday. Just had a lot going on, but
not a problem.
He was the best, and I'm glad we could reminisce about him today.
100%. Cory Provus, kind enough to help us with some terrific stories. In fact, Paul in St. Louis Park writes, "I'm sitting in the parking lot of the hardware store freezing my butt off because I can't turn this interview off. Truly wonderful stuff. Thank you." Yeah, Provus is very good, and he was outstanding today. I think kind of bringing to life a guy who is obviously bigger than life, especially in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We'll come back with Carl Gerbschmidt. Sorry, that just happened to be the sequencing. There's nothing I can do about it.
Want to look leaner and be stronger? Then check out the Nuva Bar. It actually helps you work out. The Nuva Bar is the compact, lightweight way to regain freedom and balance. It targets your lower body, upper body, abs, and core without getting down on the floor. Best of all, the Nuva Bar is now on sale for just $99.99 plus free shipping and comes with interchangeable resistance bands with 7 full workouts. So if you want a trimmer waistline to look like you're 40 in your 60s, get the Nuva Bar and forget about crunches on the floor. Go to NuvaBar.com. That's NuvaBar.com.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
With New Year's resolutions, many of us will make a vow to eat healthier, and that's a good thing. But what about our beloved pets and their nutrition? Greetings, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here, and I'm on a mission to provide better nutrition for cats and dogs because, truthfully, all pet food is dead food, which is why we created Rough Greens and Meow Greens in the first place. We bring their food back to life with live vitamins, minerals, probiotics, enzymes, omega oils, antioxidants, and so much more. All in a tasty formula that your dog and cat will love. You can improve your pet's coat, digestion, energy, and have less vet bills. Let 2025 bring a new year and a new pet. Get a Jumpstart trial bag, normally $20. Get a 100% discount with promo code BESTFRIEND. You discover the shipping. Go to roughgreens.com, use promo code BESTFRIEND. Bring your pet's food back to life with Rough Greens. So good, your pet will ask for it by name.